Hey there, Internet. Our Felix Finch here, and welcome to another episode of Underground Lucha Things, the Lucha Underground Retrospective, where I, somebody who, despite having locked horns with many of these competitors, have never show. But you know what? It's not just me going through this show episode to episode. It is my friend, the lovely, the one, the only Angie FN from Midcard Mana joining me to tell me about her experiences when this show happened. Angie, how you doing?
I'm good. Again, thank you for having me. It's always been, or thus far, it's been fun going through Lucha Underground again with you. So, good times.
Yeah, and this episode is number 15 from February 18th, 2015. Eye for an Eye. And we start off this show with Muertes versus Chavo Guerrero Jr. And Katrina isn't out with Mil this time around. This is
he comes out alone, which is interesting at this point. So you see him enter alone without Katrina, and you also kind of hear the commentary team talking up a little bit about, is there tension between them? We've seen some tension before, right? And this just adds more fuel to that fire of questioning, where does her loyalty lie?
Yeah, and this is one of those interesting kind of breaks where we get a more traditional wrestling match, and it's a less flippy, more focused. And this match has been built up because Chavo denied Mil Muertes a soul, so he has to pay with his own soul. Katrina does eventually come out with The Rock and seems to draw Mil kind of close to her as Chavo goes for a chair, and he hits Mil with a chair, which Mil no sells. And even though there's a disqualification, Mil just continues to beat Chavo and flatline him onto the chair.
And I think the coming out of Katrina in the middle of the match made it even more noticeable that, there was something going on there, some tension in the relationship. Maybe she's starting to question whether or not she wants to continue allying herself with Mil Muertes. And interesting is that as she's drawing him away, right, and he gets hit with the chair, it really seems like that's what her goal was, to get him to lose or to get him pinned. Now, it sort of comes into question, why would she want this sort of thing to happen?
And Mil goes and drags Katrina into the ring to force her to lick Chavo, and wrestling Twitter is having a bad day with things like this. So, but
yeah,
but she refuses, and
she defies him very boldly, I should say, which is cool. It definitely shows that even though Katrina seems to just be a manager of Mil Muertes, that she's also kind of a badass, and she doesn't fear him, which we've seen in the past episodes that she already doesn't fear him.
Yeah, and
not really anyway.
Yeah, I mean, she got lifted up by the neck last episode, just like straight up off the ground by the skull. But as Mil goes to give her a flatliner, Phoenix jumps into the rescue, and as they escape, Katrina kisses Phoenix passionately, and I've got to give Matt Stryker some commentary points because he goes, his exact quote, "Lick of death directly in his mouth."
No, the commentary team throughout Lucha Underground of Vampiro and Matt Stryker, just excellent. Both those guys really know how to have a very nice split of wrestling history and background of these individual wrestlers, as well as their significance in wrestling and lucha libre, and then also being hilarious. So I think it's a really good mishmash that both of them can both be play-by-play and color commentary at the same time. That's, I think, my favorite part, and what I miss the most about Lucha Underground is the commentary team, because they had such great chemistry with one another too.
For sure. And like I said, for me, it's half and half. Like, I think that line it skated the pervy line properly, where it's just like it's at least hilarious, even even if it might be out in poor taste. But we go around and find Black Lotus being quite sneaky in what seems to be a dark storage area of the temple.
Yeah, she's breaking in.
For sure. And we cut to Cueto's office, where he's addressing Cortez Castro, Mr. Cisco, and Bale, who are now wearing matching basketball jerseys that read "The Crew," which I assume they aren't promoting the racing video game from 2014 that's open world and is supposed to be the name of their team. And he asks them to eliminate Sexy Star, Pimpinela Escarlata, and Mascarita Sagrada. And they seem
And
to.
I have that in my notes. Is telling them to destroy those three. Are you kidding me? Is my question mark in my notes. It's just such an interesting trios match to have them have their first, big coming out of being the Crew, and their first big task besides getting rid of Big Rick. So it was just a super interesting matchup right off the bat. And that, I remember I was confused by it when I first watched it. I was like, what? Why are they fighting this mishmash of people? But I got it a little bit more now. It's definitely very much classic heel face dynamics. These are three of the most popular underdogs that people root for in Lucha Underground, coming up against now the corporate backed Crew with the support and funding of Dario Cueto.
The corporate Crew.
Yes.
But yeah, so we go from that setup to Ivelisse versus Angelico. Well, actually, it's Ivelisse is in the ring with Son of Havoc, and she says that since Son of Havoc has been unable to get the job done, she'll be taking on Angelico instead of Son of Havoc. And Angelico seems quite reluctant to face Ivelisse, not really pressing his advantage despite her being continuously on the attack. It is weird that they're not going to beat you over. They say they're not going to beat you over the head about the normalization of intergender action, but it feels like by calling it out, they're beating you over the head with the normalization of intergender action. And
kind of.
Yeah, and some shenanigans allow Ivelisse to get the win with Son of Havoc kicking Angelico in the head, and it allows Ivelisse to roll him up. And Angelico says he's willing to go one-on-one without her boyfriend sometime, which is implied to be sexual with a wink, if you know what he's saying.
Hey, I love Angelico. I love him. It was such a good way to really, I think, push him as at this point in Lucha Underground and his relationships with people. I mean, he's just come in. He's really sort of one of the newer talents that's being incorporated into Lucha Underground. And I love this dynamic because you see a whole lot of other kind of characters, but you don't really have that Casanova yet. And Angelico, with how he moves, with how he looks, he fits it really well. He's got the good cocky swagger. It worked for him.
Yeah, would you like to see my South African mining company? I don't I don't know enough about South Africa, and it's like, would you like to visit my Trevor Noah? I don't know. Colonel De Beers, that's I don't know much about South Africa's history. Nelson Mandela, Springboks. There you go. There's my entire history. But we get a lucha mask up next. Superfly versus Texano, and they say Texano, but it's spelled Texano, which I thought was kind of interesting. I assumed it would be spelled with a J. But
yeah, it's so funny because before reading his name, I heard it. So I think I had written or talked to like two of my friends, and I wrote it with the J, and then I saw it as an X. I'm like, oh, No wonder I had such a hard time finding him online when I went to go look him up more, because I was searching Texano with a J and not Texano with an X. Now I understand. So definitely is a very interesting spelling. I think it's cool because it helps separate him from Texano, is usually classified also like the music scene.
Yeah, the people from
So
Texas.
to kind of, yeah.
And it's interesting. They throw in a Vampiro interview with Texano, and I don't know how good Vampiro's Spanish is, but like I'm impressed as somebody who doesn't speak the language at all.
I know.
Because he sounds pretty smooth. Like he could be speaking gibberish, but he says it with such an easygoing confidence that sure, you're speaking Spanish, dude.
I have to believe that he either knows Spanish and can speak it, or somebody scripted that for him and he practiced it, because there's no way Lucha Underground on the El Rey network would have fake Spanish in this show.
Very true, and I do like that they give us a kind of rundown of their feud in AAA, so that we know what's going on between Texano and Alberto El Patron. Because honestly, if you didn't know, like I didn't, just got blindsided there at the end of the show last week, so I had no clue what was happening. Just suddenly a wild Texano attacked.
Yeah, I remember this cluster of episodes very well, because this is the cluster of episodes that my dad really liked. Because as Alberto El Patron came from WWE, it was easier for him because it was somebody he was already familiar with. Of course, now we know that Del Rio El Patron, I don't remember his actual name, is a scumbag, but still loads of charisma, unfortunately. Anyway, moving forward.
Yeah, moving forward.
One thing I liked about the match itself that got called out, and I cannot remember if it was by Striker or Vampiro, but they said specifically that Texano is a great counter wrestler, and that was on display from bell to bell in that match. He was so quick to figure out a way to counter all of Superfly's moves.
Yeah, I put that, this match, it felt pure lucha in its execution. There was just constant motion, and I think to what you're saying, the counter wrestling, like he was able to answer with just like the perfect response. It was
so smooth.
It was very impressive.
Smooth.
It was very impressive to see as someone who really hasn't watched a lot of Lucha Libre. And even if not everything seems to have the correct, it doesn't seem to have the full impact that it should, it still just flows one move into the other. And I loved, like, Texano had this, like, driving backbreaker, neckbreaker combo that he used to win. It looked badass. And Alberto El Patron makes his way down the stairs. And when we get to the ring, we see that Patron is caught with a fist. And even though he gets the upper hand on the brawl on the outside, the fight makes its way back to the ring, and the refs and security all come in to hold El Patron back as Texano runs off. Again, they're bringing in that Alberto El Patron Texano rift, and I think they did a great job putting over Texano here for those of us like me who had no clue who this guy was. I've never heard of him until this show. I had not heard of him. Like, maybe he's done stuff afterward under a different name. I don't know, but I liked what I saw.
And interesting that El Patron, I always call him by the first names I remember them from. So El Patron here gets Texano's bull rope.
Oh yeah, I love the bull rope as a weapon just because it's something so different, and it's something that if you've ever held a bull rope, those things are heavy. They hurt if you get hit with one.
Those are not something to just play around with. They're literal bull ropes. These are made to hold that weight,
And Cage is in Cueto's office demanding to be made champion. And Cueto says that while Cage is everything he wants in a champion. Prince Puma is still, by all technicality, still the champion. But he will apparently use Ring of Honor's rules here and have him challenge Puma one-on-one. And if he's able to beat the champion, then he will clearly be the number one contender for the championship. And Cage demands a better belt than that, quote, Aztec piece of crap as he throws the pieces onto Cueto's desk. And then suddenly Chavo bursts in, saying that Mexico got what they wanted and he's leaving Lucha Underground. And Dario actually says the temple doors are always open, but wishes him the best on his future endeavors.
Future endeavors, yeah, I have that note down too. And busy time in Cueto's office, with everything going on, Cage and then Chavo.
Yeah. It's nice to know that he has an open door policy, though. I mean, isn't that what you want in a GM? It's like, hey, boss, look, I just got the crap beat out of me by like some inhuman wrestle guy. Can I just go home? That's all I want. Just let me go home.
Right. And interesting that he then, after everybody leaves, he has the pieces of the belt in his hands, and he says specifically, the gods will not be pleased with Cage's destruction of the belt. So interesting that they're still keeping that sort of thread there of this being something sacred and something otherworldly and not just a belt made by a guy for this company. It has a whole lot of story meaning in it and behind it. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, on that note, though, the gods have terrible graphic designers. Just saying, it's a little generic, but I don't know. I'm going to guess that the belt's going to look different going forward. But we cut to Black Lotus discovering a mystery room with a prison cell. And she says that since she was a girl, she's only wanted one thing, to kill him with her bare hands. And it looks like a fight ensues in the darkness.
What happens? Who knows?
Yeah, and finally we get our main event. It is The Crew versus Pimpinela, Escarlata, Mascarita, Sagrada, and Sexy Star. I just love the way the music says that.
Yeah, that's the best part of that music. That's my favorite.
Yeah, and this is a no DQ trios match with Pimpy quickly gotten rid of by a kendo stick, and they take out Mascarita Sagrada with a curb stomp onto a chair, which might be a little bit of overkill for a mini. And the match quickly evolves into a 3-on-1 match with Sexy Star standing alone. One thing that was cool, and I don't know if you'll appreciate it, but Donovan Morgan, who used to wrestle along with Mike Modest, was referenced in the commentary, and he's not a very well-known guy here in the States, like outside of Northern California or like huge Japan marks. So I loved seeing him get some love there. And all three began to put the boots to Sexy Star, but Big Rick made a surprise appearance, and Sexy Star was able to get the pin while the Crew was distracted. Also, I didn't realize none of the eliminated competitors were pinned. They were both taken to the hospital, or they were both like evacuated from the ring. If this wasn't an elimination match, you could have just pinned somebody. Like she got the win by pinning one dude.
Maybe they wanted to send all three of them to the hospital instead of pinning them. Maybe it was like a brutality thing instead of just win this match.
Probably, but you know what, Rick? Sweet eye patch, but you should have kept the beard. And that's how we go off on this episode of Lucha Underground. Angie, what did you think of this episode?
It's very difficult for me to find wrestling that I don't like. I'm liking more Black Lotus. It's finally we get to Black Lotus, so I'm not as worried about dropping her name because it's finally revealed and I didn't want to spoil it. So that's exciting for me because I love Black Lotus and her storyline going forward. So seeing that pick up is now just like, oh yeah, now we're getting to my stuff. Also, the continuance of the feud between Phoenix and Mil Muertes, the involvement of Katrina with both of them, maybe? We'll see. But a lot of really good storyline stuff. So for me, that's, as a theater person, and I know you can agree with that and you relate to that as well. As a theater person, the storytelling stuff and getting to see that kind of storylines develop over time and starting to see the payoffs here and there is so rewarding. So this, we saw some payoff with Chavo. We saw some build with Katrina, Phoenix, and Mil Muertes. Got to know a little bit more about Black Lotus. So this was all great for me, storyline. Plus, the matches were fun. Texano is super talented, super fly. I got a chance to go with one of the best in Lucha Libre from Mexico in AAA. And yeah, just all around aces. Good stuff.
Yeah, and I was surprised by the amount of action on this episode of Lucha Underground. I thought having Ivelisse fight Son of Havoc's Battle Forum and have Son of Havoc contribute to the win was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed seeing the Texano match. It was fascinating. I like being introduced to new talents, and also this was new established talent. So this was somebody that, sure, they came from somebody else, but they did a great job reintroducing him to this country. I'm curious where the steps are going to go. I don't know if we'll see Chavo again. I don't know how long his contract was. I am very curious what's going on with Katrina and Mil. They are dropping all the telenovela beats they need to. I'm waiting for an evil twin. An evil twin has to show up at some time for this to be a true telenovela. But you know what? Angie, do me a favor and let everybody know where they can find you.
All right, so I am part of two other shows based here in Hawaii. First one being Mid Card Mana, where we talk about kind of themes in wrestling. I just did, not too long ago, a prediction video for the New Japan Cup. So that's the kind of stuff that we talk about, a little bit broader, serious themes, heel face dynamics with my tag team partner, Sam Killa, the Wrestling Connoisseur. And I am also part of Valley Isle Collective's Ringside with a bunch of dudes from Maui, and we talk a little bit more about the goofier side of wrestling. So if you had to take a finisher from Haku, what would it be? If you had to pick somebody to job to, who would you job to? And, of course, we also did predictions for the New Japan Cup because we all love New Japan.
How are you doing on those so far?
7 out of 8.
7 out of 8, nice. Which match did you get wrong?
Nagata.
Oh, so you picked everything except Nagata? Yeah, dude, that Nagata-Suzuki match was great, though. I'm going to have to go back, and it has English commentary now. I'm going to go back and watch it with English commentary. That match was just stole the show. Whew. Night 2.
Yeah, that match was...
Whew. It was a grandpa murder fight. Yeah, but... if you want to find me, you can find me here on YouTube at Frisco Flame if you're on this channel. If you're listening on any kind of audio podcast, go to youtube.com/Frisco Flame or look up Underground Lucha Things. Find the show, watch it, see our pretty faces. If you want to go to Etsy and search Frisco Flame, I've got pins and pops, including this lovely Underground Lucha Things pin right here. Yeah, look at that. It's beautiful, 1.5 inches, and it can be yours for $10. Also, if you decide that you want to get some wrestling from some other source, something independent, go to iwtv.live, powerbomb.tv, and type in the code Frisco Flame and get 5 free days of independent greatness. And you know what, Angie? I'd like to thank you for being here. For Angie, for myself. Peace out, party peoples. We will see you here on Friday with the next episode of Underground Lucha Things.